Hi guys, Mark here again, and this is the second part of our Yamaha V90 restoration job. And today I'm going to be looking at the removal of the front wheel. Now the front wheel is held in by basically a spindle, a brake backplate retaining bolt and a couple of cables. And if you look at this first image, you'll see that I've removed the brake backplate retaining bolt. It's a simple bolt with a castellated nut, split pin, bolt and a couple of washers. Now as we look at the side of the cables go into, you've got the bottom cable there. That's held in place by the adjusting bolt and the nipple which engages with the fork. The bolt, the adjuster, has got a slot cut into it, which is really just so that you can actually get the cable in and out without having to take the whole thing apart. Just above that you can see the speedometer cable, which is slightly larger in diameter than the brake cable, and this is held in place by a spring clip. It's important that you should not lose that spring clip. These bikes are now between 38 and nearly 40 years old, the earliest ones, and if you lose things like the spring clip there, you'll have a hell's own job to try and find a replacement. Now as we look at the spindle, you'll see that I've actually taken the nut off there. Now that spindle is a very neat sliding fit in the fork. Now you might be tempted to get a hammer and just whack the end of it where the thread is to try and drift it out. I would suggest not doing that, because if it's held in there with any kind of rust or friction, then hammering the end that's got the thread on it will just knacker the end of the thread over, which is not a good plan. Again, that bolt or spindle is nearly 40 years old, and doing that will just make it useless. If you look at the other side there, it's got a little hole in it, which if you use some penetrating fluid and squirt that all around the spindle where it passes through the actual down tubes, you should leave that for a while and it might be able to engage it to come out by giving it a little twist with a screwdriver through the hole in the other end. But certainly if you need to drift it, I would suggest putting a piece of wood or something softer than the actual spindle itself on the side that you intend to give it a whack with. It's certainly something that's easily to knacker up. As you can see in this case, the whole front end is pretty well oiled up down there, and with a little bit of persuasion our spindle came out pretty easily. Once you get the front wheel out, you can then get to the mudguard securing bolts. There's two bolts on the inside where the wheel goes, and at the back where the stay wraps around, it's just a couple of little sort of self-tapping screws. Once you've undone those, and you can only get to them when the wheel's out, you can then release the actual front mudguard. The front mudguard in this instance has got a crack in it, so we need to try and do a little repair job on that to stop that getting any worse. And that's about it for this session. Next session we'll be looking at the leg shields, taking those off and how we can restore those.